that he understands. This man, and I'm not kidding you, he took a test on SHAS, all of it, the entire one of it, every single page, all 2,711 pages of it, and he scored the highest in this country and in the world. The reason why I read that ended Matseva because I was trying to give him a little stuff. But seriously, he scored the highest score on every page of SHAS. It's a huge, huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
Oh, who else do we have there? We have Avrumi Eisenberg. We have Moshe. Okay, and then we have MDY. You're going to hear a few words from him afterwards. He represents Keynote every day, and he gives shiurim in the yeshiva here, and he's in the shiur every day. So these are the Chavrei HaKollel that help the shiur, and that's why we focus a lot on them. They just, as I said, they just took a test just a few days ago on 600 Daf Gemara. How many days ago was the test? Last week. Unbelievable. All right. Unfortunately, I stopped a little short today in the morning, but it's a whole sugya. We're going to start from the Mishnah. We'll try to do it as quickly as possible. It says the Elegant Mishnah, sponsored by Official. You have two types of animals. You have animals that are, what is it called in America on the range? Free range. No. The guys that own massive land.
Ranches.
On a ranch. Okay,
Ranches.
You have guys that own, that some of them actually use helicopters to corral the animals. So, these animals that are on the ranch, they're muktzah. They're out of sight, out of mind, muktzah. Here, you gotta listen. You're allowed to feed, you're allowed to give water to the domesticated ones, the ones that are local, that come home, as the Gemara is going to explain, the shreichtim and you're allowed to chef them. They're not muktzah. What does it mean? The ones that are more domesticated, the ones. The guys are very loud. But boys, if you're new to the shiur, we're very quiet during the shiur.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But he's trying to translate to the Israeli guy. Okay. Elam Boisios. Alonois Be'ir. Eliyahu, do me a favor. You'll explain to him later. I hear you too loud. So the ones that come back to the city, those are the domesticated ones with Barios, Halonos, Ba'afar, the ones that are out in the open field. What's the point of saying that you can feed them? Of course you can feed them. Now it's interesting that you're allowed to feed. What are you doing? No. I need it over here.
You can see?
No, I need it over here.
It's better to be over there.
That's better.
Okay. Sorry. The point is that it's not muktzah and you're allowed to chef. Why does it talk about giving water to the animal? Now, we know that if you have a dog, or any kind of other animal, you're allowed to feed the dog. You're not allowed to touch the dog on Shabbos and Yom Tov, but you're allowed. It's muktzah, but you're allowed to feed it. There's other people in my family that don't believe in that halacha. Great, speak to them.
Say it again.
But this will be a little bit of a problem, as the Mishnah Berurah says, the famous Mishnah Berurah, that on Shabbos Shira you're not permitted to feed the birds. It's also to feed the birds. So people will take it up with me. Well, we have a minig Yisrael, and they decide on Shabbos it's also to feed birds that you don't own. That's the Mishnah Berurah. There's others like the Aruch HaShulchan. They try to go into different aterim. Why there's a minig and etc. It's the same. I bet you the same people that clap in shul, they also feed the birds on Shabbos. They have different aterim. Okay. As we know, the Gemara gives us advice, daily advice, and Rashi calls it derech eretz. Teaches us It's not only Torah, but also how we act and different ideas and different eitzes. So our in-house Shoichet sent me a picture. I don't know if you could see, but basically this is him forced drinking a goat nabach a minute before it died. You give it some water, and like that, the hide comes off easier. So it's an eitzah taiva. It's not a chiyuv. It's a good eitzah. These are people that leave on Pesach time. Basically, we call them retirees. They go to Florida. They go, they search for the good weather. They go out on Pesach. They come back and they go to the Afar. They go to the Afar. They go out to the ranch. Revia Rishon is a lashon of the first rain, which is a lashon of like a husband of Bia, of the rain is like a husband to the earth. The first rain. When's the first rain? Right now. Mar Cheshvan. Okay, so as long as they come back, well, Midbarios, they leave for a while. As long as they leave for a while, they're considered Midbarios. And what's considered a domesticated one that comes home? I don't know that you need a picture, but we have one of the last pictures, maybe the last picture of Yoni. So here again is the tchum. As long as it stays within the box and comes back into the city, so that's considered a domesticated one. But if it goes outside of the box, like this one right over here, goes into the ranch, it's no longer your animal that you think about, it's muktzah. Rebbe Yomer, and you have to remember this. It's not true. The list that you gave me, they're both considered boisios. The fact that the animal comes home, even if he goes for a vacation for 6 months or whatever, and he comes back, it's still considered domesticated. So what's considered midbarios? Because never comes back. As the Gemara, it seems like from the fact that Rebbe is saying this over, he himself holds of this. From yesterday, the Rebbe muktzah, but does he even hold such an idea of muktzah that if you say the animal is no longer here, it's not part of my house, it's not part of my farm, it's out in the ranch, so I'm not allowed to use it, I'm not allowed to shecht it on Yom Tov. Does he hold of this? Reb Shimon bar Rebbe, his son, Reb Shimon asked him, Batzili, tomorrow you have these dates that can never ripe, unripened dates, but they never do. That's the Reb Shimon Mao. Reb Shimon, who doesn't hold the muktzah, and interesting. Reb Shimon, we started the Masechta with Reb Shimon and muktzah, and we're finishing the Masechta with Reb Shimon and muktzah, and we're starting Beitzha all the way in the beginning. The Gemara is going to say that it goes according to Reb Shimon. Batzili tomorrow the favorite Reb Shimon by Yichai. Batzili tomorrow Reb Shimon Mao. Amalei ein muktzah Reb Shimon. Now we turn to Daf Memon Beis, and if you're looking at the paper, it's the second part on the right side, under the mem and the two dots. Oh, sponsors, but I can't read them. I'm serious. Hold on.
Any glasses?
I do. Sponsored by the MDY Siyum Group. For all those who need shoes refuahs and shidduchim, please join us. Tilum.eatmindaf.com. And sponsored by Natan Kushnur. Where is he? For Schos, that has two children. Ayikolav in the Vayra, and Yisrael, Yaakov in the Vayra. Should do well in Eretz Yisrael and have a cheshik to Torah mitzvahs and amazing time. All right. So we discussed at length this Masechta. If a person takes grapes and sets them out to dry so they should become raisins, what is that? That is two things, says Rashi. First of all, he's being doich b'yadayim. He's pushing it aside. He says, I'm not going to be touching this for a few weeks. Second of all, they're pretty gross. So two things going for it. It's muktzah because it's not edible really. Once the sun hits it, it starts decomposing before it becomes a raisin. It's not edible. Second of all, or first of all, he pushed it off. That's when you have the concept of muktzah. And if Rebbe's saying this, Rebbe probably holds this himself. So Gemara has three roots in here. The fact that you take your animal and you throw him out in the range and say, take care of yourself, come back in 2 years from now. That's pushing it off with your hands. Rebbe is only explaining Reb Shimon, but he himself doesn't hold of it. And another pshat that the brand Rabbanan Karmelu. He was talking to Rabbanan. Lidi the a muktzah. I bet some holds no muktzah like your shimon. Who early in Mia say for the Yosef Berois for Pesach and the Knossos Bereviri Shoina. The Bais is saying, don't you agree to me that if they go out for a little spatzir, a little vacation for a few months and they come back, don't you agree that that's considered domesticated? Rabbanon Lo Yibori is saying, not true. That is in the category of the ranch animal and its muktzah. Hadranaloch, Meshiva Peros, Slika, Meseftes Beitzah. Hadranaloch, Meshiva Peros, Slika, Meseftes Beitzah. Hadranaloch, Meshiva Peros, Slika, Meseftes Beitzah. Achar Shlomas HaMeseftes V'yoyel is I shouldn't read this. The Bezos Hashem is bar. Hadranaloch Meseftes Beitzah. Hadruch Alon. Hadranaloch Meseftes Beitzah. V'daitach Alon. V'disa Sheminot Meseftes Beitzah. V'disa Sheminot. V'ba'alma Hodei. V'loi Ba'alma Da'asik. Hadranaloch Meseftes Beitzah. V'hadruch Alon. V'daitach Meseftes Beitzah. V'daitach Alon. V'disa Sheminot Meseftes Beitzah. V'disa Sheminot. V'ba'alma Hodei. V'loi Ba'alma Da'asik. Hadranaloch Meseftes Beitzah. V'hadruch Alon. V'daitach Alon. Daiton Allah, Meseftes Beitzah, Daiton Chalon, Le'lisi Sheminot, Meseftes Beitzah, Le'lisi Sheminot, Le'ba'almo Da'adei, Le'ba'almo Da'as. Yiros V'chanoch Adinoi, Le'hinu Le'ansenu, Yiros Kom Le'senu Le'mazeh, Say Monu Le'ilman Bo. Hanina Bar Papa, Romi Bar Papa, Nachman Bar Papa, Achoy Bar Papa, Abba Mori Bar Papa, Rafa Bar Papa, Rochel Bar Papa, Sur Bar Papa, Od Bar Papa, Dor Bar Papa. Har V'no Adinoi, Le'izdemis Yiros Kom Le'finu, Le'finu Yiz Amko Beis Yisrael, V'nir Kolono Anachnu Tzatzainu, V'tzatzai Amko Beis Yisrael, Kolono Yodi Shimecha, V'lo Yisrael Secha. Moilet Chakmeni Mitzvisecha Ki Lo Yilom Bili, Yehi Li Visom Chukecha Leman Lo Yegoish, Lo Yilom Neshech Chukudecha Ki Lom Chisani, Baruch Atah Adonai Tamdeni Chukecha, Amen, 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 Tzela Voed. Moidem Anachnu Lefanecha Adonai Leheinu Chleya V'Seinu. Shesamtu Chakenu Meishu Beis HaMedrash, Shesamtu Chakenu Meishu Kfonos. Shono Mashkim Ve'im Mashkim, Ono Mashkim L'Divrei Torah Ve'im Mashkim L'Dvom B'Teilem. Ono Ma'amelu Ve'im Amelu. Ono Ma'amelu M'Gam Socho. Ve'im Amelu Ve'im M'Gam Socho. Ono Rotzim Ve'im Rotzim. Ono Rotzim Chayot Mapo Ve'im Rotzim L'Shachas. Shenema V'ato Le'im Te'udim L'Shachas. Nashidom Mimu L'Yotzim Ve'im V'Aliyah Tatbo. Yotzim Ufanecho Adinoi Le'Hai. Shishim Shazotani L'Sayim Meseftes Beitzah. Kein Ta'azreini L'Hafne Meseftes Yisrael Macheri L'Saymo. ללמוד ולהבין, לשמור ולעשות לקיים מספודים ולתחמות היסרו באהבו. וסחוס כל התנועים והמורים תמיד חכם יעמד לי וזמרים, שטוב לשתויר מפי וביזרי וזר זרי עד אילום. וססקיים בי, וסעלך חותן כה איסו, ושוק בחודש מולכו, והקיצויסו היסי שיחכו. כי יהיו ימך ויסידו בשנס חיים ולכם במינו וסמאלו של חובד עד אלוהי זלמו יתחי לא יברך יסמוי והשלום יסקדי שמי רבו יעמוד ועושה סדוסו וחיים וישראל לעסוק יסוד וחיו מול ושלם ושפר ויחלו בגנבו ומקה בכל נמחו ונעבור לעסוק בכל תשמעי ועשרי וימליך פתשו ולכו ומחסוי ויגורי וחייפון ומיכוי ובחיי לכו בייס ישראל Bagalo is man kori b'mromen. Korach v'shlobav v'spav v'shlobav v'stasei v'sador v'saleh v'salosh v'likutshov v'richu leilom k'chusov v'shirosot v'shirosov v'nechomosot Avram balmod b'mromen Ha'yisrael v'ramon amatem yedom v'akol tamodeisim yedom v'komandos v'g'rayzodot v'askut yishelim v'tidivot sav v'sav Ye'eloi nechon shemarav v'chunei v'chizdo v'rachon v'ntan yarichin מוזן רביכם וכל מקודם רק נשמעי והרוב עם רומם ונשמעי ונשמעי וחיים עלינו רק מישראל עם רומם ויעשה שלום עם רומם ויעשה שלום עלינו רק מישראל עם רומם
זה לא מצחיק, בכיתה זה נגד. איפה הביציים
Yeah, you're right.
When did you start? You starting tomorrow? Yeah.
So good. And then he was like, who cares? Get back on. Show up. It's monthly Shabbos and Fridays. And kept on.
You gotta learn
We're going to have a nice kumzitz coming up with Reb Simcha Sussman. Stick around. Before the next speaker, Reb Mendy, I just want to say a tremendous yishkaya to Hila Kamiansky's wife, who set everything up, worked really, really hard. And I want to welcome, and we should all welcome, a very warm welcome to 1,150 new Davrei Hashir. It's tremendous. 1,100. It's a number that's very hard to fathom. What's noch? Huh? No, I'm not big fan. He's like, what else? Who's 151? Wow, 1,151. And counting. So Shkoyach, again, to Avi Kamiansky, from behind the scenes, he schlepped in Gemaras. Whoever deserves, whoever's from the Chevra and brought somebody in and supposed to be getting an embossed Gemara, could get one today. Come over to me. We're going to be giving them out tonight. If you are new to the Shir and you get a Gemara, we have Gemaras here to give out as well, so we could save on the shipping and you can have it tonight. Come to go to Yeshua will be able to give it out.
Only if he gives his phone number.
Yeah, you have to give him his phone number. You have to get WhatsApp beforehand. Make sure Social Security number. Yishkar to Gary is again behind the scenes doing all the tech stuff. Yishkar to Enterprise. Yishkar to Mordechai Seltzer setting up today. Chaim Stefanski on the grill all day long. Who else? Reb Tomer Levy for going with sugar and getting the eggs for everybody. What a memento! Unbelievable. And who am I missing here? Also, we have to give a big, tremendous shkar for Menachem Ateh, who gave a shir 770 days ago. You're still in my chair. Noam Fix.
Noam is even longer.
No, I said his name, but I didn't say shkar. So Noam Fix also tremendous. He's behind it. He's the one that set up the whole. He's the one that made me fall into this. It was his idea, crazy idea. And Danae says that my wife isn't there. So this is going to be the first and last time we're going to have a barbecue on our porch unless we can get her out of the country again. So enjoy the evening. Stick around for the kumzitz with Reb Simcha Sussman. And now we're going to hear just a few minutes, 4 or 5 minutes, about Torah from Reb Mendy Auerbach, who was very successful in the diamond business and set his business aside so that he could dedicate more of his time to Torah, invested a little bit in something else, but most of his focus is Torah. And thanks, Mendy, for agreeing to say a few words. And then afterwards, we're going to hear, hopefully soon, from Reb David. Reb David Kaplan is going to say a few words afterwards.
Mazel tov, good evening for everyone. I just want to say one thing is that Eli seems over here like a big shot over here. He knows everybody and he knows everything. You should know that every single day he sits in the koilo and he bends with the stander like every other younger man, talking to the boys, to the Avreichim, and he's just like everybody else in the koilo. It happens to be this week is the yahrzeit of Reb Meir Shapiro Milublin. You see over here his picture, over here, a beautiful picture of his. And it's fascinating. And Reb Eli always points it out how the learning of the Daf Yomi, times, days after days, there's always something involved with the same Gemaras that we're learning within Yoni de Yoma. We've just gone through the Yomim Leiroyim, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot, and we've learned recently these Masechtes of Yoma and Sukkot. We finished just before Sukkot. Psachim we finished before Pesach, and now we're starting Rosh Hashanah. And it's almost like Ruach HaKodesh. The fact that mamish every single time that we learn, there's always something that's got to do with the timing. I want to share with you an idea. No, fix. He asked me to speak, so you got to listen over here. He really pushed me into this, but.
You're a Talmud Amachim Rabbi, the way you just started.
Okay. So there's an idea which I want to share with you that I actually heard from my father a couple of years ago. And it goes like this. The Goyim, the Gra, explains, what does it mean when we say 3 times a day, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Melech, Oizer, Umoishia, Umogen. What's the difference between Oizer, Moishia, Umogen? And he explains as follows, that there's 3 levels of Bitochen in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The first 2 is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a Melech Oizer. HaKadosh Baruch Hu helps. What does it mean, Oizer? Oizer means is that when a person does something because he has bitochen that whatever he's going to do, he's able to be doing it, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to help him. Like we say in Hebrew, ta'azoli. Someone wants to pick up something which is very heavy, so he tries, he picks it up, but he tells his friend, please help me, ta'azoli. So he's doing one part and someone else is doing another part. So that's the first level of bitochen. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a melech oizer. Then there's the next level of Moishia. Moishia is something that a person cannot do. When someone goes through a tzara, when someone goes through something that he can't help himself, he knows only the Rebbeinu Shalom can do it. So you say, Afa Yeshua. He needs a Yeshua. He can't do it. It only comes from above. Then there's the highest level, and that's Mogen. Mogen is a level that a person doesn't even know that it's going to come to him, or it's against the seichel, and it doesn't come to him, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu already stops it. It's a shield, it's a Mogen. So I once heard from my father, he explained that this is the Masechtas that we just learned and we're starting to learn, and these are just the times that we just went through. They say that from the tzaddikim that they say is that Cheshbon, Mar Cheshbon, the month that we are in right now, is from the word Sifsoseinu Marcheshes. Marcheshes Sifsoseinu. Our mouths are still, I don't know what's the word in English, but we still have the feels of Yom Tov in us. That's the month of Cheshbon. So we've just gone through the Yomim Tovim of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. Rosh Hashanah is the time of Oizer. Why? Because it says, there's an act that we have to do. We have to be Mamlich HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu is being the Melech on us. Like we know, there's no Melech below Yom. There's 2 aspects. There's us and there's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is the Melech Oizer. And then we have Yom Kippur, which is the higher level, and that is Moishia. Like we say, LeDavid Hashem, Oiri v'Yishi. Oiri is Rosh Hashanah, and Yishi is Yom Kippur. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one that does the Yeshua. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one that he can give us a mechila. We can't give the mechila to ourselves. And then after we go through that, we reach the highest of the highest, which is Mogen, which is the tzeil, the tfanois, the sukkah. We all around it. We all surround it with the sukkah, which is the biggest Mogen. I was thinking that maybe, and this is the way I feel, that maybe we could apply these things also to the Daf Yomi. A person has to do his first act of learning. You have to be a noiser. You have to do your part. You have to wake up in the morning. You have to come to the shir. You have to listen to the shir. It's not going to happen if you don't do it. But once you do it, once you commit yourself, once you push yourself, so then we hear emails after emails from Rebbe Leo every single morning, how people have Yeshuas, how people, their families change, how their life becomes better, how their lives become more meaningful. They have Yeshuas. And then I thought that there's something very unique and very special. Anyone that's part of a Chabura, but especially the Merkaz Daf Yomi, the MDY, if you're part of a Tzibur, if you're part of a Chabura, if you're part of such a family that Rebbe Eli, with everybody together, was able to create, which is an unbelievable thing, and I think that is the Mogen. That's something which is very, very unique. Which is something which is very, very special. And when Eli was talking right now about how the Bnei HaKoilo, everybody gets such high marks, but you should know that there's an aspect over there of a moged. There's an aspect over there of everybody being be'ava ve'achva with each other. There's a dibuk chaverim. And this is something which is very, very special. And this is what I wanted to say, that I think that this idea of what everybody has created over here together is something which is also, it starts with a person that's he himself is being mischayev, and how things have changed to a person's family, and how he's being mashpia on everybody when everybody is together. So I just want to end with saying a small little story that I just heard 2 weeks ago, and to give chizuk to Eli for this special campaign that you've done. I was 2 weeks ago in South Africa. I didn't do a test on 600 daf, even though you made me over here part. I mean, I enjoy very much, and Baruch Hashem, I'm able, but I didn't take this test. I was actually in a safari 2 weeks ago. But on Shabbos, Cholamoyed Sukkos, in my father's shul, someone gave a kiddush, and he said this story, and for me it was a very big chizuk, so I want to share it with you. He's a person, must be around 35 years old, who was making a siyum on Masechta Sukkah, and he said that he didn't grow up religious. When he was 17, 18 years old, he was living on his own. He didn't grow up in a cheder and not in a Talmud Torah. His father, I guess, wasn't either religious, but he was in a mall, and in the mall there was a Sfarim store, a Jewish bookstore. And he calls up his son and he says, I see there's a sale over here, something which is called Shas. Do you want it? So he said to himself, I've never heard of something Shas, but if my father is offering me something, like every Jewish kid, he says, yes. He says a few weeks later, he's getting these boxes and boxes and boxes arriving to his apartment. All he did is he stacked it up near his TV, and he said that all it was doing was collecting dust. To make a long story short, he went to Eretz Yisrael on one of these programs, and his father told him, if you want to go to yeshiva, I'll support you. So he went. He came back, and he's making a yahrzeit for his father last week, Shabbos Chol HaMoed. He finished Shas. When he was sitting Shiva on his father, after a whole day, when he was burying his father, and people are coming in and out, he called up late at night to my father, and he told him, Rabbi, I had a very difficult day today, but I can't go to sleep. Am I allowed to do the daf? The point I'm saying is that we see that when people get Sfarim, and this is what I was thinking, when people get it, maybe they don't know what it is, but you never know where it could take you. So this unbelievable campaign that Eli's been pushing, I'm sure it's a tremendous chus for him and for the entire Chabura and for everybody that's been part of it. Big, big mazel tov for everyone. Thank you very much.
תלך עכשיו, לפני שזה כבר, לפני שהמחסום ייסגר. כן, אשכרה.
You can't speak without a jacket.
No. Okay, Rabbi Isai, just moving along with the program because, like we said, it's a full program. It's a tremendous chus for us. At every siyum, we try to have, a renowned speaker. First of all, Echad Mimnei Chabura, that's Mendy. Everybody has Rikshay Lev what to share. We have a tremendous chus tonight to hear world-renowned, actually, speaker. I'm sure he'll deny it, but you can just Google him and you'll see David Kaplan, agreed to address us and say a few words. I'm sure you'll find them both entertaining, insightful, and will be a tremendous chizuk for us. Afterwards, we'll have, like Rebelli mentioned, we'll have a kumzitz with Reb Nachman, our very own Reb Nachman Seltzer, and Reb Simcha Sussman. So stick around. Night's just beginning. Without further ado.
First of all, don't bother looking for me anywhere on the Google. All you're going to see is Rabbi Eli Stefanski being advertised on the. When I walked in just now and I met him, I had the honored privilege to meet Rabbi Eli for the first time, and I pretty much expected him to see him go like this and like this and like this and like this, like this and like this. So it's a very big privilege to be here. Tremendous thing. I'm sure everybody has mentioned, has spoken about it. The Panovich Rav once went to the Chavetz Chaim. Panovich Rav had a yeshiva back in Panovich, and running a yeshiva, and he didn't know if it's worth his while, all the effort to run a yeshiva and collect. And when you're charged with the yeshiva, the last thing you have to do is learn. And so he went to see the Chavetz Chaim. So he had a ride. He got on the train, and he went to Radin. So he went to Radin, and he goes in about a 6-hour trip. He comes into the Chavetz Chaim. And the Chavetz Chaim Kedarko, he had a habit of addressing people's issues before they even spoke. The Panovich Rav comes in, and the Chavetz Chaim says to him, "Can I ask you a question? How many Daf Gemara did you learn today?" So Panovich Rav said, taken them by surprise. He goes, "Well, listen, I've been in transit. It's a difficult train switching this, that, and the other. I've managed to learn two and a half Daf today." Chavetz Chaim said, "I learned 200 Daf today." Panovich Rav said, "I know he's good, but not that good. 200 Daf. How can you learn 200 Daf?" So Chavetz Chaim says, "Come here." He pulls him over to they're standing upstairs. They have the window of the room overlooking the Beis Medrash and the Chavetz Chaim's yeshiva. He says, "This is my yeshiva. I have 200 bachrim yeshiva. This is my yeshiva. I have 200 bachrim learning Torah in my yeshiva. That means I've learned 200 Daf Gemara today." So I thought to myself, well, 200 is pretty good. And then I realized, Rabbi Eli here has about, 8,000 Daf Gemara in one day. That's pretty good. 8,000 is impressive. So this is obviously something I think it's also suitable for Masechet Beitzha, that Siyum on Masechet Beitzha, that Beitzah Shalom, it was prepared and it was born. It wasn't there. It was there. It's half there. It's what. And at the end of the day, you have a situation where this is an idea, the Daf Yomi, which was started so many years ago, and it's always developing. And all of a sudden, there's a new Beitzah Shalom over here, a completely new program. I think it's unheard of, and people are joining left, right, and center. And it's a tremendous accomplishment. And I think that all of the men who come to the Chabura, without the Ein Melech below Am, you can't have people, can't give a shiur if there aren't people coming to the shiur, and the man can't come to the shiur if there isn't a wife pushing them to the shiur. Therefore, it's a big yasher koach to everybody. It's a tremendous undertaking, and really you should just continue on and not let anything stop it from developing further. The Gemara says that Reb Yochanan had a Talmud. And Rabbi Yochanan was giving a shiur. Gemara in Sanhedrin on Daf Kuf, the Gemara says Rabbi Yochanan was giving a shiur. He said in the future there are going to be these giant gems that are going to be stood up in Shari Yerushalayim. Magnificent gemstones. They're going to be 30 amos high, 10 amos wide, 20 amos wide. Ligleg alav. There was a Talmud who was malagleg. See, I've steiged already. There was a Talmud who was malagleg on Rabbi Yochanan. He said, how could it be? You don't even find a gemstone the size of an egg, and you're talking about gemstones that are going to be 30 amos tall. The Yomim, sometime later, he went off at sea. This Talmud was off at sea, and he saw Malachi Ashores who were hewing out massive gemstones. And he said to them, what are these stones for? They said to him, this is for Shari Yerushalayim. This is us destined to be stood up at the gates of Yerushalayim. So he came back to the shiur excitedly. He said to Rabbi Yochanan, Rebbe, you should teach, because exactly what you said, I saw these malachim. And Rabbi Yochanan said, had you not seen it, you wouldn't have believed it. You're a malagleg al divrei chachamim. In those days, they took these things seriously. No sanbel, eino belso gal shel atzamos. He turned them into a heap of bones. Nowadays, you just write a newspaper article. In those days, turned them into a heap of bones for being malagla. Gemara number 1. Gemara number 2. Gemara says that Rabbi Gamliel saw a ship at sea, and he saw this ship was lost at sea, and he was upset about a Talmid Chacham was on the ship was Rabbi Akiva, and he's lost at sea. And when Rabbi Gamliel went up to shore, he got to shore, there was Rabbi Akiva there sitting. He said to him, "What happened to you? How did you get saved?" He said, "Daf shel zfina nizdamnali. I grabbed onto a daf. V'chol gal v'gal, every wave that came by, I just turned my head to deflect that wave off." So I was thinking to myself, what daf was it that he grabbed? I heard B'Shem Reb Mendel Weinbach Zatzal. He grabbed that daf Gemara, and with that daf Gemara, he was able to deflect every wave that came at him. And the remarkable thing is that gal is the opposite of the letters of malagle, glagle. Lamed Gimel, Lamed Gimel, Gimel, Lamed Gimel, Lamed. There's nobody who learns Daf Yomi. I would bet there's nobody in this room who hasn't had at least one person come to you and say, "Well, what do you learn Daf Yomi for?" I mean, you don't get that much. You don't remember that much. You don't get that. Have you ever had a malagle? Have you ever had anybody come over to you and say, "Why do you do it?" You learn it too fast, so this, that, the other. My respect. Yeah. And what do you do during that time? What are you worried? I'm not going to remember the Daf. Are you not learning it? You're certainly not going to remember the Daf. That's for sure. So a person has these. We are blessed in life. Whenever you want to do something good in life, there's always somebody to be malagleg. That means you know you're doing the right thing. If there's a malagleg, if there be no malagleg, then we're in trouble. If there's a malagleg, then we know we're doing the right thing. I heard once about this guy decides he wants to see how people conduct themselves in the marketplace. This guy's a simple shoemaker. He wants to see how people work in the marketplace. So the guy goes out to the marketplace and he sees a guy selling a horse. So they got a horse, 500 rubles for the horse, 500 rubles. Guy comes over and says, "I'll give you 100 rubles." Says 500, 100, 450, 100, 400, 100. Guy was Jewish. 350, 100. Guess what? 101, 100. Says, "All right, take the horse." They give the horse for 100 rubles. So this guy's watching and he walks over to the guy who sold the horse. He says, "I know that you're in this to make money, but you wanted 500. You got 20%. I mean, you really did not do well on this business deal." He said, "I did great on this business deal." He said, "But you only got 20% of what you were asking." The guy says, "Yeah, but you see, the horse is lame. The horse isn't even worth 100 rubles. I said 500 so that when he got it for 100, he'd be happy. But the horse isn't even worth 100. Guy goes, I see that in business. You really got to be a chacham in business. So he goes over to the other guy, says, "You know what? I know you think you're smart, but you didn't do very well on this. I said, I did great on this deal." He said, "Yeah, but the horse is lame. It's not worth 100 rubles. He says, "Yes, I know, but look at this." He picks up the horse's hoof. There's a nail in the horse's hoof. He says, "I know the horse is lame, but I saw the nail. I'll take out the nail. The horse will be fine. I did great on this deal." He goes, "Wow." Goes back to the first guy. He says, "Now you got to admit that, not so good, right? Because after all, there was a nail there." He says, "I know that I did great on this deal." So how could you? But the horse had a nail. He says, "I know. I put the nail in the horse's hoof. You see, the horse is lame even without the nail. I put the nail in the hoof in order that he should think that's why the horse." The guy's head is spinning. He said, "Now I know I'm not in business. I can't. This is unbelievable that these guys are. He goes back to the other guy, says, "Okay, now I think you think you're smart, but and you saw the nail, but the horse is lame. Even he put the nail in. You did not do well." He said, "I did great on this deal." He said, "But the horse is lame." He said, "Yes, but the money I gave him is counterfeit." So he goes back to the first guy. He says to the first guy, "Okay, now you got to admit defeat. The money he gave you is counterfeit." He said, "I did great on this deal." He said, "But the money's counterfeit." He said, "Yeah, but the horse wasn't mine to sell to begin with." There's a story. I usually tell this story at an Erusin, where just to let people know what you think you got is not what you got. But a very unpopular story, by the way. There's a tremendous Musar Haskell. The Musar Haskell is that there are certain things in life, the value is deceptive. We don't know how much it's worth. And a person sits and learns Daf Gemara. I've had these malaglegim in life. There's always a malagleg on something or other. And a person has to know, where you're doing the right thing. But what does the Kosh Baruch Hu want you to do for an hour? What should you do for an hour? Only a Reb Chaim, if you're not learning Reb Chaim or a Ksos or a Torah, that's not learning. So a person, it doesn't. It's something that people find that there's a need to go and help us to discourage us. You ever find that whenever you're doing something good, there's always somebody who's a naysayer. Person has to know that we have to rise above it. Even more than that, sometimes a person says, "I'm going to start learning Daf Yomi. It's going to take me 7 years to learn Daf Yomi." It take me 7 years. I want to tell you, I saw Chochma B'Goyim Tamim. I once saw in a very, very important book called Reader's Digest years ago, so every word is true. I saw this guy is 72 years old, and he goes over to register for college. And he's standing there with a bunch of young 20-year-olds. He's registering for college classes. So a guy looks at him, one of these young kids, he looks at him, he says, "Excuse me, sir, can I ask you a question? What are you doing here?" He says, I never went to college. I'd like to go to college. He goes, "Can I ask you a question? How old are you?" He says, "I'm 72. He says, "Well, it takes 4 years to graduate." He says, "Yeah." He says, "Well, in 4 years, you're going to be 76. He says, "In 4 years, I'm going to be 76 anyway. I'd rather be 76 with a college degree than without a college degree." The guy says, "You know what? It's going to take me 7 years to learn. In 7 years, I'm going to be 94. In 7 years, I'm going to be 119. In 7 years, yeah, but you're going to be there anyway. Unless you pay a plan, the plans otherwise, you're going to be there anyway. And therefore, I would rather be there with knowing or having learned big sections and spending my time properly than not having gotten there." And when they had the massive financial crunch in the United States, what was it, 2007, 2008? A man went to his Rav and he cried to his Rav. He said, "I have nothing, I've been wiped out. I have nothing left to show for my last 25 years except my 45 minutes a day of Daf Yomi." That's what the man said. So a person says, how much is it worth? How much is it worth? It's worth an amount that we can't possibly fathom, and nothing should discourage you, us, from continuing. Everybody, whatever Torah they're learning, that's what the kiyum of the world is. There isn't a light over here or anything, is there? Notice how I said that? I'm married. Thanks. Just maybe put it up here so I can knock it down.
There you go.
Oh boy, sorry to be difficult. Yes, I am. Oh no. I can't see a thing here. 1 second. There's more. No, I have them, but I left them at home. No, I don't. I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. And by the way, the key to the success of the whole thing, I didn't know this till I came here. Rabbi Stefanski's wife is from Chicago. That's the key to the whole thing. If there's anything good in the world, it's from Chicago. That's a rule. So
You notice how 2 people were clapping?
yeah, I noticed that. That's the rest of my minions from Chicago. Because I'll say, Godol Talmud Torah Yoser Me'atzolos Nefashos. Talmud Torah is greater in saving lives. A person, difficult to understand. Talmud Torah is greater than saving lives. How could that possibly be? Godol Talmud, everybody knows if somebody's drowning, you have to close your Gemara. You can't say, well, just tread water until I finish the mission. It doesn't work that way. Somebody's drowning, you have to stop what you're learning, you have to save it. The answer is that in a Chanami, you also have to stop learning to put on tefillin. We have to stop learning in order to go buy a lulav and an esrog. But the ultimate value is Talmud Torah. There is no greater value. And it's the most difficult thing to understand because the Gemara in Sanhedrin says that Torah is hevel that comes out, it's vapor. It's something that a person can't, there's no tangible essence to Torah. So it's a very difficult thing to understand. How is it that Torah is such a big thing? Godol Talmud Torah Yoser Me'atzolos Nefashos. In the United States, there's a place called Virginia. I don't know if any of you have heard of Virginia. Okay, they've heard of Virginia. Have you ever heard of Blacksburg, Virginia? Probably not. Neither have I, except that I was there once. And in Blacksburg, Virginia made the news about 15 or 20 years ago because a guy got into a university in Blacksburg, Virginia and started shooting people. Minagamokom in America. And he got in, and he started shooting people. And there was an Israeli professor, a 70-year-old Israeli professor, who blocked the door. Guys trying to break into one of the doors of the university, killed 32 people. By the way, the biggest mass killer in history of the United States is from Chicago, by the way. Thank you very much. It's a neighbor of mine. And the John Wayne Gacy, as a matter of fact, for those of you who remember. John Wayne Gacy, by the way, this is parenthetical, but I think I'll share this with you anyway. John Wayne Gacy, after 6 months of examination, after killing 33 people, a team of psychologists examined him for 6 months. And after 6 months, they rendered their decision. He's not stable. That was the
Great.
So anyway, I just had to get that off my chest. In any event, so this guy was shooting people, and his Israeli professor blocked the door. A secular Israeli professor who was at Virginia Polytechnic University blocked the door, and the guy eventually broke the door down, knocked the door down, killed the professor. But in the meantime, students were able to escape, get out the window. They were able to jump out the windows, and eventually the police got the guy. So it was national news all over the country that here's a Kiddush Hashem of sorts, and he was a national hero, and so on and so forth. A frum woman said to me, it's my wife, she's from, and she said to me that it's true, he's a national hero, but so is every single man who learns Torah. Every single avrech in kollel, every single man learning a Daf Yomi, every single bocher in yeshiva, every single person who's learning Torah is protecting Klal Yisrael. And we have an obligation. We, when I say we, I don't mean we who are learning the Daf. I mean we who are learning Torah have a constant obligation to ourselves and to others to realize when we're learning, we are making the biggest contribution to the world. Nobody contributes more than us, and they should get a clap of the hands. Yes, gentlemen. A hand for ourselves. Yes, yes. When we're learning Torah, we are doing more than anybody else. There's a woman in England. I once went through a period of serious allergies. I had terrible allergies, and couldn't figure out what it was. And one of the things I'm allergic to work. And no. Oh, is that? Am I supposed to end? Finish? I thought that was what they end. And sometimes they just say, just turn off the microphone. Why don't you? I was going through a period of severe allergies.
Beautiful.
No, this was fine over here.
Everybody's.
What happened? Why can't we leave it here?
We don't know. He does this to me during Seder also sometimes.
Is that good? Good. I don't feel so bad. It's like sometimes, things get moved in the house periodically. Why? My hachala also. Zebeseder, Lolo, Zetopo.
People in the world.
So this woman in England, I was going through a period of allergies, and the doctor couldn't figure out what it was. Now, I had traced it at a certain point. It was also around 2005. And at one point, I realized I was stressed and tense because being a lifetime Cub fan, the White Sox were in the World Series. That was causing me tremendous aggravation. Even my own mother, she should live me well. She said to me, no, you're past this, aren't you? I said, no, Mom, I am not. And I was at a chasta in New York right around that time. A guy I hadn't seen from high school, one of my arch nemesis White Sox fans. I was at a chasta in New York in 2005, and an avrech from Lakewood comes over to me. He says, "Are you Kaplan?" I said, "Yes." He says, "I'm Plony's son. He said to tell you." So I've got my payback from, 2016. In any event, I was going through these allergies. At one point, I said to my doctor, what happens if a person becomes allergic to water? What happens if a person becomes allergic to water? So the doctor said to me, all right, they're in trouble. Okay, Kaplan. A couple of years later, I read an article. There's a woman in England. She gave birth. Her body went haywire. She became allergic to water. There are like 17 cases in medical history like this. She can't shower. She can't drink. She can't. How does she survive? Now, I'm only telling you what the article said. Do not ask me any kashas. The only thing she could drink was Diet RC. That's what it is. So apparently, Diet RC is pure, freshly squeezed vitamin juice, right?
Yeah,
Chemical
really.
juice. That's what the article said. And I remember thinking to myself, Ein mayim ela Torah. And this woman said, my life is no life. Once a week, she could rinse herself off a little bit with water. And the rest of the time, she is devoid of water. Ein mayim ela Torah. A person cannot exist without water. We cannot exist without Torah. I heard saw in Ovos Rabbi Nosson, and I want to share this with you. It's such a powerful idea. Ovos Rabbi Nosson in Chaf Gimel S. Ovos Rabbi Nosson says, sorry. Give me 1 second. This is worth waiting for. Chaf Ches Gimel, sorry. Ovos Rabbi Nosson says like this: Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, Kol hamesim shalom b'soch beiso, one who makes shalom in his own house, Male olav hakosuv ki ilu mesim shalom b'Yisrael and kolecha v'echad. Person who makes shalom in his home, a person who somehow creates a home environment of shalom, it's as if he's made shalom in all of Klal Yisrael. So the Mefarish over here says, how is that? She'al yedei sheyilmedu b'nei beiso lihisnaikach bebeisam tispashet midazu b'kol Yisrael. His own kids will learn from the father to behave a certain way, and then that midah will spread in Klal Yisrael. I don't think that that's limited to shalom only. That's limited to everything else that we do. When our kids see us and they see a devotion to a cause, that happens. That affects the kids. Nothing affects the kids more than what the parents are doing. All the questions that people ask about chinuch and chinuch this, chinuch that, chinuch the other. The best chinuch for children and the best book on chinuch that I've ever seen is called the Mesilas Yesharim. That's a great book on chinuch, because when a person works on himself, his kids will see it. Orchos Tzadikim is also good. Anything that a person does himself, the children are then going to pick that up from the father. And therefore, if a person is going to wants to be mashpia, the same way that this daf shir started with how many people? Started when what do you call it? Just you? Five people. So look what's happening. Why did it happen? Who knows? For some reason you were zochah to the siyata d'shmaya. You're all zochah to the siyata d'shmaya. It spreads. That's a mitzias in Klal Yisrael. I don't want to go too long. I just want to tell you a powerful zog that I heard. Yisachar Chomar Gorem. Some of you may know this. It says Yisachar Chomar Gorem. Reb Lezer Plachinsky Zatzal, Rabbi Yashiv's brother-in-law, he married the daughter of Rabbi Aryeh Levin. And Reb Lezer Plachinsky was a massive Talmud Chacham, was once walking in Yerushalayim, old Yerushalayim. And he saw a quarry, and they were quarrying out Jerusalem stone from this quarry. And he was watching them quarry out the stone, and he notices an Arab was out there hewing out this heavy Jerusalem stone. He loads up a donkey, and the donkey takes a couple of steps. Now he's got to get up an incline all the way out to the top. So he notices the donkey takes 2 steps and he stops. The Arab hits him with the stick and the donkey won't budge. Hits him with the stick again, the donkey won't budge. He waits. The Arab goes over, takes a towel, drapes it over the donkey's head. The donkey puts his head down and he starts walking, and the next thing you know, he's out of the quarry. Reb Lezer Plachinsky said, now I understand Pshat, the pasuk Yisachar Chomar Gorem. Why is Yisachar compared to a donkey? So what happened to that donkey in the quarry? The donkey is loaded up with stones. He looks all the way up. He said, I got to go mehachal ha'asam. That's a long way. I'm never going to get there. He stops moving. What did the Arab do? He tilted his head downwards. The donkey looks. Donkey says, oh no, I only got to get from here to here. Donkeys don't have a good memory. So they only got to get from here to here. He takes a step. And so they only got to get from here to here. He takes another step. And the next thing you know, he's out of the quarry. The next thing you know, he's out. Sometimes a person takes a look at the Gemara. How are we ever going to get to there? How are we ever going to get finished? No, that's not how we do it. We take a look. Look down. This daf is all I've got. This is all I'm interested in right now. Now I'm interested in this daf. And the next thing we know, we're at the back of the sefer. The next thing you know, a person's made a siyum on Shas. So it's a... I'll tell you the truth. I was very curious when I got called by Yedid Nafshi, Tomer Levy, called me up to come speak. He said, there's a siyum. I said, okay, speak of the siyum. He said, have you heard of Rabbi Eli Stefansky? Yes, I've heard of Rabbi Eli Stefansky. Yes, I always got to get through to get to my emails. Yes, I've heard of Rabbi Eli Stefansky. This is the chabura. I said, this is a chabura that I want to see. This is a chabura that I want to meet. This is a chabura. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know how you did it. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what's going on. But this is something that is really, what is it? I mean, it's Gemara. You learn the same Gemara we're learning. Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing, right? I don't know what you're doing. Whatever it is that you're doing. So we finish with a bracha. Set my birkas hedyot that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should grant you all much sata d'shmaya. You should continue learning, and you should learn b'sifa. Do I have time to tell you one more story? I'll tell you one more story. It's a beautiful story. I was once at a talk, by the way. The speaker said, finally, and whenever a speaker says finally, everybody kind of sits up and takes notice as if they've been paying attention all along. The speaker said finally, and we all kind of sat up, and he went on, and we were kind of looking around. Then again, he said, and finally, and he said finally 4 times, and eventually he said, finally. Right? Then he brought it in for a landing. So finally, there's a beautiful story I once heard about the Meshech Chochmah. Meshech Chochmah was learning with the Chabrusa of his. They got stuck on a piece of Gemara. You can imagine. Meshech Chochmah got stuck on a piece of Gemara. So they parted. They went into their individual corners and they davened. They said, let's daven. So they davened. They sat back down the Gemara 10 minutes later, and immediately the Meshech Chochmah got the pshat. So his Chavrusa said to him, now why did you get the pshat and I didn't get the pshat? So he said, did you daven? He said, of course I davened. What did you daven for? He said, I daven. I daven. What did you daven for? So Meshech Chochmah said, I daven for ahavas Torah, that I should love Torah. The word said, why would loving Torah help you to get the pshat? The Meshech Chochmah said, imagine there's a little baby in a room. The baby's crying. The baby's screaming. So the Zaidi takes the baby, tries to give him a snack, and the baby keeps screaming, doesn't want the snack. The bubby takes the baby, tries to burp the baby. The aunt takes the baby. The sister, nobody can come. The mother walks in, listens for a second. All the baby takes the baby, sits down on the couch, cuddles up the baby, just go, yeah, and the baby's calm. The Meshech Chochmah said to Chavrusa, a lot of people tried to calm down the baby. Why did the mother know what was bothering the baby? The answer is because of all the people in the room. The mother's the one who loves the baby the most. If you love the baby, you'll understand the baby. And therefore, I daven for Abbas Torah. If I love Torah, one way or another, I'm going to understand Torah. Because Rosh will grant you, us, we, all of us, Siyata D'Shmaya, we should have Abbas Torah. We should continue learning whatever we're learning. It should always be Siyata D'Shmaya. Amen.
ישנת, הכל בסדר?
כן, ישנת 2 כדי שעזרתי
Sitting in the rock.
Oh, hey.
I grew up in Sina. It's very good.
It's not so long. It's not long enough. Shalom Aleichem. How are you? What's doing? Good. How's everything? Good to see you. Mazel tov. Mazel tov. Gersh, have to be a little closer. Have to be a little closer. I don't think it's long enough. I'm waiting. I'm fine. I'm only gonna. This has to be set up differently anyway. Okay, here. Yeah. I'm gonna have to move the. I'm gonna. Wait.
He's definitely not from He's American.
It can't be that because I'm gonna pull on it. It's gonna be. Fine. 1 second. So let's move the whole thing because I need the.
1 second. We'll do it all.
Fine.
This is your cup now.
Yeah.
This is your cup?
It's
Yeah,
my
put
cup,
it over here. Move the standard to there.
Let's see a little more. It's good. Let's see. I need to move this over.
No, but then make sure the microphone, the speaker.
I just want to get this to the side. It's like this.
Simple, let's go. Let's get it going.
We have to get it going. It takes time. We're getting there.
He has British humor.
Testing 1, 2.
I saw it.
No. No, 1 second. 1 second. No, we're pulling over here also. Hold on.
We gotta get the element.
Okay, we're gonna try. I wonder. 1 second.
What's that song?
Okay, 1 second, but I need to be closer because it's gonna pull on it. I'm afraid of this pulling. Testing 1, 2.
What happened? You're the guy?
Yeah.
Wait. So what happened?
I don't know, but no, I don't know.
What?
Tell him how good it is.
You left already.
Who left there?
We have a guy in our koilel that knows. He got the highest score on the
1, 2.
The raw meat. Nobody wants to touch it.
Where's the bottom line? It's a cheap one, maybe. We're gonna lose the island.
Don't walk by over here.
Thank you.
Okay, we're trying to take a little cover the simcha. We can try.
What do you want?
People can't walk by. Thank you.
Right here? We'll knock the thing. You know what? Let's use this table.
Okay, we'll try to get the element to it. We'll need the mic up a little bit. If not, when seltzers, do you yes, no? Just bring the mic up, Mike. No, the volume. Sometimes you don't know which crowds it's popular in, but it's definitely appropriate. If you don't know it yet, it's an easy song to learn. I thought this was showing we're talking about even a Torah true, but definitely a song that's under the love us.
Right. You shot.
Got a few more left here.
There you go.
Gershon, bring that up a little more. Yeah, a little higher. Also, there's a little more treble. There's treble there.
All about the
A little more
bass,
treble. A little more
all
treble.
about the bass, no trouble.
I'll take my treble. And Nachman and I like singing the song together. It's a song that's very appropriate for sitting together here.
It started many, many years ago when there was just a few of us over here on the porch. And now there's like 17,000. But the Tshuva Ached is ultimately the Torah, as we know. So we talk about Achdus, which is an important component, important ingredient in everything we're doing. The bottom line is that through Limit Torah, we see over the past few years what happens, how a neighborhood is able to come together from Limit Torah, people that never necessarily interacted with the other different parts of the neighborhood. That's the true Achdus. Here we go.
Share Yerushalayim
I could ask Rebelli to come outside, please.
Oh, really? You could ask him. He doesn't listen to anyone.
Rebelli, can you please come outside? Come outside. You can eat the sukkah.
Really? You get to
Eat out of the sukkah. The next song I want to dedicate in your honor. It's not your song, but I'll give you some background to a song that I wrote 6 years ago. Before MDY, I sent to a picture of the original shir that the Maggid MDY gave 7 years ago in yeshiva. But he brought to the yeshiva a certain energy of chazorah, Shem making kinyan on the Masechta. In year number 2 of the yeshiva, we started, because of you, we started the Haravna program. And over the course of 3 years, over 30 Talmidim went through Masechta Tainus multiple times, one of them being a kibbutz simcha. And during that kufa, when we started learning kindness, Vaharavna, I was inspired to write a song. And the emphasis, the song was really your inspiration. Wow. Now, Vaharavna, obviously, we all know the famous, everyone talks about what's the idea of Vaharavna, why we have to have a bracha of Vaharavna, or we ask Hashem Vaharavna. The simple understanding of Vaharavna is we ask Hashem to make the Torah sweet. This morning in MDY Medrash, I was to a different Havana. That the word now means please, or means now. That's the Pashup Shah. You look at Ibn Ezra, look at other Mefarshim, what it means is another place in the Torah it says, Ataycha Mimenu Na, the Karbi Pesach. And the Pashup Shah, Ataycha Mimenu Na means you should need Ruah. But Ibn Ezra brings a few different pshat in what Na means over there. One pshat means Ruah. Another pshat of the word Na is from the word Ki Heiniya Via Isa, which is Lashon of to break. He says that doesn't like that pshat because later it says that's a message. And the other pshat of Na is alive, Basar Chai. And I think that those second two pshatim very much what Baruch Hashem Yozeh to accomplish and what Vaharavna, just in general, leave it at Torah with the Gishmak, we talk about the sweetness of Torah, but I think there's two components, two of many components that take place for the Vaharavna to take place. First of all, Vaharavna, in order to take things and be Masliach in learning, we take things in pieces. And Vaharavna, Kali, we ask Kadosh Baruch Hu Vaharavna to please make the Torah sweet in the sense that it's broken down. And the way you give the shir, where everything is broken down, everything is given over, in the way that everyone could eat and everyone could take it in, everyone could digest it on their level. That's the emes, the way for a person to be able to take in, leave it on Torah, and to be able to be Matzliach and learn, because it's Vaharavna, Lashon Nav, Lashon of broken down. But probably more importantly than that is Vaharavna, Lashon of being alive. And if Torah is dead, if Torah is something that we do because we learn it in its pages and its words on a page, and in Echanav is not going to have a key in, but we ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu Vaharavna from the Lashon of Chai, of Al-Teicha Minu Na, Lashon of Basar Chai, that the Torah should be alive. It should be alive in our mouths. It shouldn't be something that we just do when we get in the morning and we do the daf. It should be something that we learn with the chiyus. And the chiyus comes from the chiyus that's from the one that's being meiser this year, and that chiyus goes and it's transmitted from the meiser to the makabel, and it's alive. And we see that it's alive because it continues to get stronger and stronger. So the discuss of the Limit Torah and the Habatas Torah, a song that was written a bunch of years ago. Let's try to do it together. It's a beautiful song. It's a simple song. It's a Shalom, I think. You know it also.
Not a chance.
The video.
A big chance.
Try it. It's worth it. Look over the simcha. We'll try it together.
Yeah.
Hashem Elokeinu
It's
Ellie, pick the last song.
אין על זה חתימה שלך? מה זה שווה?
I think you did. No? Okay. Never?
We only have time for two more. Let's go.
Pick what?
Hey, go on.
I can hear. One last song.
אני עדיין רוצה את החתימה שלך. אלי, אני
I didn't want to. Too long. For a while, yes. Wow. On the dot, 11:00.